Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert alongside the good Father, Father Joe Grimaldi. And yep, we'd like to welcome you back. Thanks for visiting the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. Friends, I have 2 words for you. Star Lincoln. Okay, make those 4 words. Visit Star Lincoln today. Either in our beautiful showroom or online. The incredible lineup of new 2022 Lincolns are back in stock, and they are ready to move. Shop online with Star Express. Swift, simple, safe. Browse for your new Lincoln from home, customize and order from home, and receive $1,000 in payment assistance. Have I told you Star will buy your car, even if you didn't buy it from us? The previously owned market is so red hot right now, we are happy to have you stop in and visit with one of our executive sales associates. So remember, you have 2 ways, starlincoln.com, or if you're in southeast Lower Michigan, you can visit us at 12 Mile Road just east of Telegraph in Southfield, Michigan. Star Lincoln, home of the Father Joe Star treatment. Hey, you got a second here? I wanted to read you something.
Sure.
After our podcast about Vatican City and perhaps my going to Italy sometime and you telling me all about the difference between just Rome and the Vatican City, all of that. And then we rambled into a topic about the Pope and possibly making retirement, maybe putting that before some people. And let's bounce it around a little bit about maybe a mandatory age for the papal retirement. Sure. So I open up the Catholic News Agency moments after we did that podcast. The latest, top of the bar here. The Pope Emeritus puzzle. Will Pope Francis rewrite the rules of resignation? With speculation running rife whether Pope Francis could step down, it's worth analyzing what the Pope actually said. So it's funny that we're so good now at this podcast that we are predicting the future.
That's right.
If you missed the Pope and Vatican City.
What did he say, by the way?
Well, I can open it up if you'd like.
Just a quote.
Yeah. Oh, and one of the things that I know that he did say was that if he did retire, he's not staying at the Vatican.
Okay.
He's not going to be a part of that. With speculation running rife whether Pope Francis could resign and whether he might retire to a residence in the Vatican Gardens like Benedict did, it's worth analyzing what the Pope has actually said and how this aligns with his wider project of a reform for the Roman Curia and the Catholic Church. It doesn't really get to the point here.
Well, you just said something anyway that we could go on. The Pope, in my mind, is still a Jesuit. And the Jesuit house is next to the Vatican, so he could easily go live at the Jesuit house. You know that they used to call, maybe it's not a good thing to say, but the Black Pope was the Jesuit, because the Jesuits are the ones that question. They're the intellectuals of the church. So you have the white, because the Pope wears white, but right next door you have the Black Pope, who is the Jesuit, whoever it might be, the head of the Jesuits. So I don't doubt that if he does retire, Francis will probably choose to go live with his brothers, basically, his brother priests, which are right next door to the Vatican in Rome.
He came right out of this chute, though, breaking the template for a couple of things. In other words, he wanted to drive his little Fiat.
Yes.
He kept the little car. And I thought there was something about the slippers as well.
Well, he's not wearing red.
Yes. Oh, really? You mean he's not?
No.
At all?
He wears the regular black shoes whenever he can.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's not into that at all.
Okay. Is that good or bad?
Depends on who you talk with.
Yep, exactly.
Because I suspect it's good in the sense that why should they have all of this paraphernalia of, the red velvet shoes and all of this other stuff?
They always reminded me of Dorothy's slippers, by the way. They always did.
But he just wears black shoes that most priests wear. He likes to be very normal.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You brought up an interesting point, and I was thinking about this when you were saying that. I keep forgetting that there are this particular group of Catholics, and then there's another group of Catholics, and maybe there's even a third set of Catholics, all sort of imagining the correct way to be a Catholic. In other words, going back to like the Latin Mass. The only way to have a Mass is Latin Mass. The people that just could not let that go. I preferred the Pope facing the wall and the tabernacle. You mentioned something as well where some of the other people would say, no, 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 no. In other words, he has to stay and live on the property.
Right.
And then you'd have the other Catholics who would go, no, he doesn't. Why can't he just go live with his brother Jesuits? Because you don't do that.
But one of the things that I noticed, after Pius XII, who was known as the monarchical pope because he wore the triple tiara and crown, after him, that was destroyed. And so no more. They don't wear that. It was a triple crown, basically.
Yeah.
But basically, they don't wear that. And so now he comes along, Francis comes along, and he gets rid of the red shoes.
Gets rid of the car. And
that's another sign, if you want,
Well, that's what I mean, but I was just deciding all of a sudden to ask you about this. Do you notice that within the church itself, just your parish, don't you have little groups within your own parish possibly that could have different attitudes toward the way the church, even your church, Sacred Heart, should be run?
Oh, I'm sure. There's always that. But I think the people you're speaking about, they do something about it. In other words, there are many Catholics that do not go to their parish masses. They'll go elsewhere where they could find what they like. For example, St. Mary's in Greektown, they have the official Latin, what they call the official Latin church that you hear advertised.
Old St. Anne is another one.
Some
right?
of them like to say, which is really ridiculous, that's the real Mass, the real Mass. Well,
that's what I mean.
The others are not real, or what?
Yeah.
Now, those people would not stay, though, in a parish. They would leave. They go elsewhere. Now, people always have their own opinions about things, whether this should be here and the statue of the Infant of Prague should be there, and they all have those opinions. No, but I'm talking about what you were just saying. There's a radical Catholicism that's not in usual everyday churches. But they do something about it. They go. They don't stay in the parish.
Well, we see it in politics a lot.
Yeah.
Within their own parties, there's splinter groups that really dislike each other. Yet, we're all in it for the same fight, to make things better. But first we have to get over ourselves, because we can make it better for everyone else if we did it our way, not your way.
That's the way they feel.
Yeah, and I was just wondering if that's carried over into a lot of our lives in different elements.
But I wouldn't see that, because they already will have left. They don't stay in the church.
Really? So there are that many people that literally almost go house hunting for their church?
Oh, a lot. Most do now.
Is that right? Well, that's almost it's like a page out of the evangelical playbook. I want to just go and have, I told you before, I don't find anything wrong with evangelical services. You start with the 3 guitars and the singers, and then, whatever the case may be. But I find it fascinating that people will cherry pick the church that they want to attend based on the way they feel about the Catholic Church.
Even when everything is, and I'm going to use this word in quotes, the average Catholic Church. There are people that don't like this one. They'll go to that one because of this, or because they do less standing and more sitting. They do, they choose different things. But the real radicals would be the ones that just don't agree with some theological point, and so they want what happened pre-Vatican II. And so they're going to go to a place where they can celebrate the Mass in Latin. Do they understand Latin? No, but they want to hear it. They like what it sounds like. The same thing with Gregorian chant. That's a beautiful sound. There's no question. But it's not the only sound. And, of course, they say, well, if you're going to do church music, it should be Gregorian chant. And unless you do Gregorian chant, we're not going to be at that church. There's nothing wrong with Gregorian chant, but it's not the music for most people.
That's totally going against the entire purpose of going to church. You don't want to go into church with an attitude.
No, you can't. You're right.
You want to come out feeling good, even better.
Yeah.
You want to take your first step in and go, I already feel better. And as you take your first step out, you go, now I feel a lot better.
Yeah, I think so.
But you know what? I'm aware of it too, because I remember it does go back to Pope John the 23rd.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember my parents. That was huge. That was huge in their lives when that was all happening.
Of course it was.
I was in grade school at the time. It was back in like 1961, 2, 3, and that timeline in there.
Correct.
Yeah. So much was happening.
A little bit later, 67 maybe, yeah.
So you remember more vividly than I would about how that change was probably huge in everyone's life.
Because that changed the whole attitude of the church. But before that, it was a monarchical church.
Mm-hmm.
It still could be. Some people still think it is. And, of course, to a degree it is, in the minds of a lot of people anyway. But there's the last time we had a monarch for a pope. So Pius XII during the 50s, and there was no question. He was treated like a king. He was carried on a shoulder chair, where 6 men carry him and so on, as he greeted the people and this type of thing, wearing his triple tiara and all of this. That stuff is gone. That doesn't do anything for people anymore. See, that made the Pope almost the king. And that's not what it's supposed to be.
Well, it was supposed to look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, here comes the king of the Catholic Church.
But now we see a different attitude, people interacting more, people making decisions in a group, women having a say in things. They're not having as much of a say as they want, but they certainly are having a say. You have women serving at Mass, which they never did before. And all of these things have changed radically.
They're Eucharistic ministers as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so not all the churches will do that, though. It's interesting.
Yeah.
There are churches in Detroit. When you go to that church, the communion has to be given either by a priest or a deacon. No one else can give it out. And you have to kneel at the rail. And then you get communion.
With an altar boy.
Yeah. And
a paten.
Only a boy, not a girl. And you get, that exists, by the way. Not a lot, but it exists. And some people are called to that. So I can see where at least there's an opportunity for the people that are happy with that. But then, for the most part, people are happy with what's going on generally.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by two things. They've missed the entire purpose of the Catholic Church, or going to church. That, to me, is the real cafeteria Catholic. I'm going to go, and I don't care if there are 22 different things. I'm going to have the bacon. I'm going to have 2 slices of ham. I'm going to have a little scrambled eggs. And I'm going to have 1 pastry and 1.5 cups of coffee. And that's exactly what I had last week, and the week before that, and the week before that, and I'm going to have it again next week. And that's the correct way to do brunch. No, it's not. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it. You can do it from that side or this side.
Right.
And you can start with the pastries if you want, or you can start with the bacon. All right? I'm a rule breaker. But you know what I'm doing right now? I'm at brunch. So that's what I think people tend to want to do with the Catholic Church on occasion.
But they've already made their decision. In other words, what you're saying, in my mind, is that people shop around. Well, they've already shopped, and they don't go anywhere else.
And if you do it a different way, though, that's what I'm saying. It loses its whole purpose.
Oh, definitely. But it's still a Catholic Mass. It's still a...
Yeah, but I feel like that person walks by me and goes, see that one there?
They're separate already, though. They're not around.
Yeah, because they've already separated themselves from that. Okay. I get that, and I don't get it. I mean, I understand it, but I don't understand it.
Well, they need to have that, and it works for them, but...
I'm going to tell you this. I tend to think of an older person when I think that way.
That's not true.
Well, I don't mean to infer to either of us that we're on the
No, I don't mean that.
Higher
but
end.
there's so many young people that love the mystery of the Gregorian chant.
Well, okay, I get that.
There's a lot.
I get that, but they don't have to, stop right there and go, this is where I'm going to stick and stay.
But there are people that do that.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, maybe I'm the one that's kind of boxed myself in here.
No, you haven't. I don't think you have. I think normally we have to be somewhat flexible. But by the same token, here's what happens that was somewhat controversial when Pope Francis limited the number of ways you could do the Latin Mass. Just recently, you've heard that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where, first of all, it should be the Vatican II Mass in Latin. It can't be the Tridentine that he asked for. And then it's not going to be offered everywhere. There are only certain churches that are going to offer it. So by doing that, he was highly criticized by those groups. And as you say, it's going to be happy in some ways and unhappy by the groups that want to see it everywhere.
I want to see it.
But the problem is this, though. If you were to offer that elsewhere, how many people would show up? It depends. Very few. When they have their own space, well, then they'll get some sort of a crowd. But if they were to offer the Latin Mass in every church, you'd only have very few people attending. Because they don't know Latin anymore. And the people that go to those Masses very often don't know. They like the mystery. In some way, when the church got, and I'm going to say in quotes, modernized, we lost a lot of the mystery.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about that.
And so because of that, there are people that like that mystery, and there is something to that. I mean,
I agree.
And so it does offer that for the for those people that enjoy the Latin Mass, because it gives them that sense of mystery. For example, the priest with his back to the people.
Yeah.
That's mysterious.
What's going on up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Gregorian set in Latin is beautiful music. It really is. But it's also a little bit mysterious. So
I remember
there are a lot
having
of young people that don't that like it only because of that. But go ahead.
I remember studying with a flashlight. I was so nervous about saying the Confiteor and Suscipe, I think it was. Suscipe, yeah. And I can't do it any longer. Confiteor Deo. It's funny, I can remember parts.
You can remember more than I do.
Well, but I remember just over and over and over again. And it was funny because I believe it was one of the nuns that was handling the altar boys. And she was the one that, as you said, it was drilling.
Oh, yeah, she knows the drill.
Yeah, just drilling us.
They know how to drill, yeah.
Say it again, do it again. Close one eye,
Yeah.
Final question for you, just going back to the, how did you say it, the monarchical ways?
Monarchical, yeah.
Monarchical ways of Pius and John.
Pius the 12th.
But John didn't go with the crown?
He didn't. The one who I think made the big move to get rid of it was Paul VI.
Yeah. So before Paul VI, John the 23rd?
John 23rd,
okay.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So John the 23rd, he did not wear the crown?
I don't think he did. Maybe he did, but he was not big on it.
But Pius enjoyed it, you think?
Pius the 12th?
Pius the 12th.
There was no other way.
No other way at that point.
He had to do that.
Oh, he did.
He felt that. He wanted. He was a good man. He did a lot for the Jews trying to save their lives in Rome.
Oh, okay.
He was a good man, but he was very monarchical. He was like the king. And he walked in, he was the king. He was carried on the chair that they carried around, and so on. John the 23rd was rotund.
Yes, he was.
But jovial.
Yeah.
And he's the one that walked into the Vatican gardens with a cardinal and said, "You know something? We have not had an ecumenical council in 100 years. Isn't it time?" And so I guess they said, well, and guess what? He changed the whole church.
I know he did.
And he was elected with the idea that he could not do much because he was old when he was elected as Pope. And they said, well, this could be a nice temporary thing until we decide what we want.
Yeah.
That was the attitude. They didn't say that, but that was the attitude. So we'll elect this guy. Roncalli is his name. And they said, let's elect Roncalli because he doesn't have long. He can't do much in that. Well, he revolutionized the whole church.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was always a little garden conversation, walking around. It's been 100 years.
Yeah, and they thought, look, you just put the 40-watt bulb in the socket until the 75 comes in. It's that simple, Jerry. That bulb will go like that.
That's right.
But it'll give us a little light till we get the 75.
And that's what they figured.
Well, can you shed a little light with a little prayer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, I'd like to pray because we are living at a time which is the pandemic over? Isn't it? Who knows? It seems to be. Then all of a sudden you have all sorts of peaks going on this.
Omicron bar 0.5.
It's got to be confusing to people
yeah.
because it's uncomfortable. Nobody knows if it's serious or isn't serious. Should they wear a mask? Should they not wear a mask? Should we keep distancing and so on? Anyway, Heavenly Father, we ask you to grant us the wisdom to choose the right way to follow. We ask that you send us leaders who are experts in the medical field that can direct us in the right direction. And we ask that you keep us healthy and happy as we continue to enjoy this summer. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. God bless you. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.